Welcome to Beyond Broth's first summit, Nurturing a New World from Chaos to Goodness. I'm Grace Ventura, founder of Beyond Broth, and joining us today is Emily Grieves. Emily, I met in a very magical, powerful place called Teotihuacan in Mexico at the pyramids when I was on a journey. And the introduction to Emily was all through her art. She is an artist. She is not just an artist, she's an extraordinarily talented, intuitive artist. She's been creating art for a long time. You could see all the official things about Emily on her bio, which you will have the information. But the way that I want to introduce Emily is really from my heart, because her art inspires that. It inspires so much heart. It comes from so much heart. And she does live in Mexico, in Teotihuacan, so she's coming to us from Mexico, which, wow, what an incredibly magical thing in and of itself, right? She's painted murals at a place called the Dreaming House Spiritual Retreat Center, and has created a body of artwork influenced by the cosmological imagery left in the ancient pyramids and by her relationship with her own muse and the divine feminine. Yum, 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 yum. And just to give you a frame for today's interview, we're going to have a conversation about how living as our greatest creative art making and intentional, I think I said it wrong. Okay, I'm just reading it and I'm saying, I think I added too many words. So, living as our greatest creative art making and intentional creativity as a way of life. Oof, that just sounds so rich to me. So without further ado, Emily, thank you so much for being here with us. I feel just so much gratitude, so blessed.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm honored to be here.
So where I'd like to, that was a mouthful. And I just, I'd love to hand that to you and say, please say a little bit more about what that means.
So art making and intentional creativity as a way of life. This is the way I live. It's been, I think life in general is a work in progress, just like a painting or a poem or a book or, whatever creativity way of expressing ourselves, calls to us. For me, it's been primarily painting. And I guess I view life in the same way that I approach a painting. That there's a cyclical process of dreaming and going out into other realms to access information that might not be readily available here in this physical reality, and bringing that information, those images and thoughts and dreams and sensations back through that portal and giving them form here in physical reality. And, this is really what goes into making a creative expression, to have a result here in this reality. And I think of life in the same way. I think we have so many, we come in, we incarnate, we come in through that doorway. And we have so many experiences and opportunities for learning and for learning how to navigate the the actual being in form and all of the feelings and sensations and thoughts and beliefs that come along with what that means. And, it's a lifetime's work. It's like we're always a work in progress as we become a creation. How do we come in through that portal? How did we incarnate? We were created, right? And there's a lot of thought and inquiry we could put into the idea of who created us or what created us, but ultimately we are a creation. And so when we ourselves create, whether that be whatever it is, a meal or a painting or a drawing or a new business, we're attempting to align ourselves with that great creative energy creator that brought us into creation. It's a way in which we can align with the great creative force that exists in the universe.
So
And that's a way of life.
absolutely. And I would love to hear, I mean, you just said, it's so profound the way that you do, how you have been guided and learned how to tap into that place in yourself, in the divine spirit, God, whatever one is using as their phrase. And I'm wondering if you could share how you got to that process and how it supports your humanity. I know you spoke to, when you're creating a business or any of your creations, that they are a reflection. And there's, in my experience, there's such a way to learn about oneself. And is that part of your process in when you do this?
Is learning about myself part of the process? Absolutely. I mean, I think that I couldn't possibly imagine separating my creation from learning about myself and from, being on a quest for healing myself also. Artwork has been throughout my life a way in which, and not just painting, but other forms of creation. Creative writing, performance improvisation, aerial dance, like, I mean, there theater, like, you name it.
My kind of woman.
Some way to express myself, what I carry within. And what I learned over time, over many decades, is that that's healing for me. That if I can find a way to take what I have within, or the ways in which I come into friction or conflict with that's outside of me, if I can find a way to express that it can be very, very healing. In fact, it's creative expression has saved my life on numerous occasions.
Yes.
One of the primary ways in which it's done that is through this method called intentional creativity that I studied with my teacher, Shiloh Sophia. And I highly recommend working with her. She offers many free offerings every month, and also, larger, longer programs, for people that really want it. But if you want to get just like a taste for this, I really recommend going to seek out work with Shiloh Sophia at Musea. And but long ago, when I actually studied art in college, and throughout my youth, my childhood and my youth, always looked for some way to, we sort of joked like creativity is survival. It's like, oh no, thriving, but there were times in my life when it literally was survival for me. and that I survived thanks to finding a way to express myself. And that led me to actually studying art in college, printing and printmaking and drawing. And when I graduated college, I started exploring painting more, mostly because printing presses were suddenly no longer available to me. Um, but also just to really begin working with color and with studying nature and what was around me. And I spent a number of years, including those college years, creating this really dark, intense,
Mm.
expressionist work that was just like taking my raw emotion and just going blah,
Yeah.
onto the paper, onto the canvas.
And it
And
was very useful, I assume.
extremely useful. Like that was
Yeah.
really the survival period. And it got me through, just being able to, rather than turn whatever raw emotion I was feeling inward, where it would be damaging to myself, I was able to get it out onto a neutral surface, i.e. a piece of paper or canvas, and observe it. And then that helped me change perspective. And that continues to be a tool that I use to this day.
With this one, when you could take that and, if it wasn't anything, was it technical, or did you see it as just like pure? The reason I'm asking, pure expression, the reason I'm asking is that you are an incredibly accomplished, I mean, look at these paintings behind Emily. They just radiate so much light and so much heart, and they do have so much expression, but it's all feels very divine. And I shouldn't say, but it is all very divine, and it isn't that kind of, my imagining of like Jackson Pollock, who could throw paint and, get a lot of money for it, or something but it showed expression. It was an expression. And for people that don't have that technical ability, how can they take this and use that? Because I think people could be very afraid. I've heard so many people, oh, I can't paint, I can't draw, I can't, but yet, and I went to art school as well, so I do have my degree in art, and I get all of that. And I also, the experience of people feeling so intimidated is there. And I'm sure, as a teacher, you have come up.
Yeah, that's where the intentional creativity comes in. So to backtrack, like, in terms of that kind of raw expression, I mean, it was because of the art training, it was merged, but I think a lot of it has to do with what's your intent. Is your
Yes.
intent to find an emotional release, or is your intent to make an image that has a certain aesthetic result?
Yes.
And for those that have both, I mean, there's a way in which you can merge it. But what happened was somewhere along the way, and how that raw expression shifted and started moving more towards what you see behind me, was actually came about through a conversation with my mother. And this was, again, many years ago. I was living in San Francisco at the time, and she came to visit. And I was still in that sort of what I would call my angst-filled phase. And she said, just, she never understood art or what I was doing. But she just said, sort of really innocently, like, can't you just ever paint a happy picture?
Mm-hmm.
And I got completely offended, of course, right?
Of course.
Doesn't understand me. But then, later on, it kept kind of moving through my head, and I was like, there comes a point in all that blah that you have to find the point of transformation. Yes. Like, where's the shift?
Yes.
Like, where is the point where you like, okay, I've released enough, and now how do I move on and move forward and leave that behind?
Yes.
And that stimulated in me this sort of, from one moment to the next, I busted out this huge piece of fabric and somehow connected to this channel. I was studying, and I guess I was already practicing like energy work, hands-on healing, that kind of stuff. So I knew how to open a channel at that point. But these symbols and bright colors and vibrations started coming in, and it moved me into a like literally from one day to the next, into a
Wow.
completely different style of making art with a completely different intent and a
Wow.
different energy that was coming through. And so that led to, development in that. And then eventually I, I discovered the work with Shiloh through a friend of mine. And really, like, it allowed me to, it gave me a method to bring all of that together, the healing, the way in which to be in service with it, and to heal myself, and then guide other people through those steps, which brings me around to your question of, like, people who are afraid of art, or how can they access that. And in spite of the fact that I am trained as an intentional creativity teacher, my personal path is taking me back into technical art, strangely enough. So I can't highly recommend enough to connect in some way, shape, or form with Shiloh. But what I want to say about intentional creativity, and I've heard when I was really actively doing classes, I heard so many people come with that fear, which mostly goes back to early childhood, that there was some kind of a story of, the kindergarten teacher said you colored outside the lines, forget it, you're never going to be a good artist. I mean, so many stories that we incorporate as part of our programming from the time that we're really, really young. And one of those stories is that it has to look a certain way, or that there are certain rules and regulations you have to follow in order to be able to express yourself. And so much of looking at that is to take a good look at your inner critic that we've all developed so powerfully during the decades of our lifetime, and to learn how to shift attention to another part of us that equally lives inside of us, just like that critic. And that's a part of us that one might call the muse. We all have it. But it was that connection for many of us as adults is, become really weak, or even I wouldn't say severed, but that we've completely forgotten how to look for that connection within us. And I think of the muse as a part of us that's actually connected to that great creator, creative force in the universe. So it's really a birthright for us. And so intentional creativity, we often begin kind of looking at how we might shift that perspective, how we might take a good look at that critic and say thank you for all the ways in which the critic has served us, to trying to protect us in different ways, which sometimes involves, many, many layers of peeling back onion skin within us, to be able to create experiences of connection with a muse. And there are a lot of ways in which, I just picked up a paintbrush as I was saying that. I'm like, this is one way, to kind of give ourselves the opportunity to go back to the beginning, back to before we started, believing those stories that we're being given, to go back to being 3 or 4 years old when we picked up a paintbrush, or someone handed us, tempera poster paints or whatever we painted with back then, or crayons, to have that same kind of freedom to just explore and play, to release all the layers of, there's certain right ways to do it. And it's funny because, I just have to share with you, just for me personally, right now at the point, the steps I'm in and on my life path are of art making and creativity being a way of life for me, is that after a number of years of offering those experiences to people, as a service, is gratitude for what I have received from learning this way of being. I've turned into a different space now, which is providing new challenges for me, like where I feel like I've had one of my feet in the intentional creativity path, in this personal expression as a healing tool for a number of years, and now the art making, that technical part, is calling me again. So I've actually embarked on a new learning to improve my technique, which is really uncomfortable. So I really get that place of being like unworthy and I can't do it,
Yes.
it up, and
It's great.
I'm back in that place again.
Yeah.
And the reason why I've returned to that place is because what I am being called to now is something that I dreamed long ago when I was really doing hands-on healing one-on-one sessions with people. And I dreamed that I could somehow use my artwork as a portal that could serve many more people than I could attend to one-on-one. So that, like, I'm the channel for a portal that then whoever comes into perceiving the image that I present through that portal, they can receive a healing through it. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense, but I do have a question.
Yeah.
Because there you are, just I feel like I could just go so deep in this conversation with you, and I need to pull it back just for a moment.
Let's dig in.
I have a question, and the question is, you were talking about a muse, and it really sparked something for me, because I would like to know, for you to share with folks, how they would find their muse.
So there are many ways in which we can do it, in which one can do it. And a lot of it probably involves more time than we have here in terms of a bigger process. Because ideally we would have a long guided visualization.
Well, you never know. That might be the offer you're offering. So hey.
We can certainly do a little bit of that. You know, we would really take some time to write about some events in our lives that, as we, you know, look back, where we can excavate a little bit to see where that critic's voice stepped in. You know, one can really do kind of like a recapitulation, like to go back and observe, like as if you're observing a movie screen, some of those scenes, you know, the first grade classroom where the teacher, you know, took the ruler across your knuckles or whatever, because, you know, people have had so many kinds of, you know, and traumatic experiences around creative expression, or the time they, you know, happily sang the song and someone said, "You're my sax," you know, whatever, those voices, to really go back and do a little recapitulation and observe those scenes from a witness perspective, and see where our energy might even still be wrapped up in those scenes, that we might be able to. I always imagine taking a golden sponge and just sponging across the scene to absorb my energy out of it, and, you know, send it back to the sun, and imagine then that pure light streaming back down through into me, and that it's mine now. It doesn't belong to anyone else. It doesn't belong to any teacher, parent, or whoever. It belongs to me in a free, pure, cleansed state. You know, and that's a process though that I offer to you. A really simple little technique, a tactic, to bring your energy present, because that's one thing that's important as we look to how we connect to the muse. To create, we need energy. You know, if our energy's trapped and locked up in other places, it's not available to us. And so if we don't have energy available to us, with what energy are we going to create? What energy are we going to, you know, is going to arise from us, and how are we going to align with a greater creative flow? That's the muse part. So the muse is really the one who's receiving the benefit of you gathering your energy anew. And, one thing you can play with is if you do a little bit of that work of looking at the critic and calling your energy back, you can, in a meditation, and we can do a brief little taste of this here during
Right.
our, but if you want to go into it deeper, you can do a long meditation of, you know, getting grounded, calling in your energy. That would be your first step. Call back your energy from the sun, from the, pure source of energy from this planet that we live on. And, you can even put some little sprinkle glitters as you pull that in of just creative flow, sparkle, fun, right? Because creativity should be fun, at least at certain points or times when it's total torture. But in general, it should be something that's fun for you, something to enjoy, something that's even relaxing. And, to go into a meditation and go on a little walk, like if you've ever done shamanic journeying, you can imagine yourself in your meditation in some sweet place that's really safe for you, a garden or a spot in the woods or, a beach near the ocean. And just imagine that you get up and you begin walking and call for your own muse to come meet you. Maybe you walk a while and you find her in some kind of a unique environment, in a cave, a house. Where does the path lead you? The most important part is your intention. What is your intent? So if your intent is to connect to your own muse and to call her forward to you, then you'll meet her. And then you can, study, like, what does she look like? What is she wearing? What is her expression? And imagine then, in that intent, that your muse gives you a message. She hands you a gift, some object, and notice, this is opening your imagination even to be able to go on a meditation like this, on a journey, to open your imagination. And sometimes you have to try numerous times, you don't see anything, or that's part of opening the imagination too, to just be able to see within your own, visual screen in your third eye. If we're really, really closed down around that, just start with the first part of that, like imagine yourself in a beautiful place. And, but imagining that you have gotten to this point where you've met her, you've asked her for a message or a gift, and you receive it, and then you can bring that back and use it as a place of conversation to develop a conversation. That's the thing with this muse. If we just have a one-time interaction with her, something, like a teacher, a leader, a guide could lead you through that. The point is that a one-time thing isn't going to necessarily open it. It's a question of establishing a conversation.
Yes.
That conversation ultimately is with yourself, because she's a part of you.
Yes.
So learning to converse with yourself is really important in terms of beginning to open that flow to muse-inspired creating.
Yeah.
And, before we begin this meditation, it's good to have near you some kind of a piece of paper, a pen, so that when we finish, you can make note of anything that you did observe during this guided visualization. And this kind of guided visualization is a really important, integral, fundamental part of intentional creativity. It's a way of dreaming that allows us to be more focused in a particular intent. So our intent.
Can I lay down?
Sorry?
Can I lay down?
Yeah, sure. You can totally lay down. So our intent with this journey, this guided visualization, is to make contact and connect with our muse, and to receive a message or gift from her in return, her or him. I'll use the pronoun her, but be open to however the muse appears to you. I've had women come back with male muses. I've had men come back with female muses. So don't be attached to the pronouns that I use. Maybe I'll use they. I'll play with a flow. And so place your feet flat on the ground. If you're laying down, just feel the surface of the ground beneath you. And allow yourself to be supported by Mother Earth, breathing gently and feeling that support, feeling ourselves inhabiting our physical form. And close your eyes gently. Scan the inside of your body, noticing any tight places, and breathing softness and release into those places. And bring your awareness to a place in the center of your head, between your ears and behind your eyes, right in the center of your forehead. From this place of awareness and observation, imagine that you're looking at a screen, like in a movie. You're sitting in a movie theater, and the curtains pull up, and you're looking at a screen. And on that screen, you begin to see the shape of a door. Observe this door. Notice its color, any kind of adornment on it, the frame, what material this door is made of. Notice what the doorknob or handle looks like. And notice that on this door, there's a sign that has your name written on it. And as you observe this sign with your name on it, noticing the way in which it's written, and the color of the letters, imagine that your hand moves toward the doorknob. Observe your own hand reaching for the door handle and opening the door. You pull the door open and you step across the threshold to the other side. And as you step through, you see yourself in a beautiful environment, in a place that feels inviting to you. Notice where you are. What does the ground look like under your feet? What time of day is it? What is the temperature like? You take a look around, all around, and observe the sky above you, the land around you, and the ground beneath your feet. And you see a path stretching out from your feet off into the distance. And you take a step, and you take another step. You begin to walk, following the path, walking, noticing the material that the path is made out of, or stone, or rough. One step after another, you continue along the path. Notice that the path begins to descend, as if going down a slope of a hill. And again, you observe all the nature around you and the environment in which you're in. in the distance, as if calling you. And you listen closely to discern the melody and the words. And the closer you get as you approach the grove of trees, the clearer the voice singing becomes. And you realize that the voice is calling your name, incorporating the melodic syllables of your name into every note of the song. You get close enough to the grove of trees that you begin to walk under the overhanging branches, feeling the light streaming from the center of this grove, and you realize that there is an altar there, some kind of a structure with a shining object emanating such strong light coming from the center of this structure, this altar-like structure. And the closer you get, you see that there is a figure standing just beyond the altar. And it is this figure that has been singing. You approach, feeling called closer, an invitation being extended to you. And as you come up in front of the altar, bathed in light, the figure who has been standing behind it comes around and approaches you. You stand in awe of this figure. Who are they? The figure extends their hand to you, inviting you to come closer, gazing into your eyes as you gaze back. Observe this figure who takes your hand in theirs. Observe their eyes, their nose, their mouth, their face. Observe their garments. What are they wearing? How are they clothed? Are there any markings or symbols upon the surface of their skin? Are they wearing anything on their head or around their body? This muse has invited you into their most sacred sanctuary. part of you since your birth and from before. The muse turns to the altar and picks up the object that has been creating so much brilliant light and brings this object to your hand, placing it within the palms of your hand. You observe the object, this gift that you are receiving from the muse, and you notice every detail of its form, its shape, its color, its texture, of what it is made of and of what it is. The muse curls your fingers around it and brings your hands containing the object up to your heart. And you observe that it merges into the opening that has been created within your heart. The muse begins to sing again, singing the song of your name and adding on the syllables that describe the gift that you have just received. You hear the message that the muse gifts to you through this object. And you give your thanks. The muse tells you that this is your home and invites you to return whenever you desire. You embrace in gratitude and carefully carrying the gift that you have received, cupped within your heart. You say goodbye and turn and begin to walk back through the grove of trees, finding the path again, one step in front of the others, rising up the gentle slope, one step at a time, and returning to the top, to the doorway. Place your hand upon the doorknob and you step back through the door, turning around and closing it. And you realize then that there is a key stuck in the doorway with a delicate gold chain attached to it. Pull the key out and you pull it around your neck so that the key nests just upon your heart. This is your key to return whenever you want, to visit and converse and learn. You place your hand upon your heart, holding the key and the gift there, and you observe your hand. And you observe your hand upon the movie screen, breathing deeply and bringing your awareness back into the space behind your forehead, between your ears. Breathing and exhaling, inhaling and exhaling, bringing your awareness down through your whole body, into your fingers, into your toes, feeling again the surface beneath you, supporting you. Inhaling and exhaling. And very gently, when you feel ready and present, opening your eyes and taking the opportunity to write, to remember any details of what you experienced and observed on your walk with the muse, to document messages that you received in words or in doodles or in symbols. We're going to take a moment just to integrate that into the body in a just completely energetic way on a piece of paper with a pencil or a pen. We're going to make some marks, thinking about our experience without lifting our hand up from the page. And we're going to make a little body, just making circles, but without lifting our pen off the page. And it can be just a, however your hand moves, just let it move as you think about the muse before you. So completely abstract, just flow. Make a little body, a series of circles or lines or squiggles, and just let your hand move as many times at once without lifting the pen up off the page. With the intent that as you think about your encounter with the muse, that's coming home into every part of your body, coming home into your legs, to your feet, your thighs, your knees, your other foot, up into your belly, your heart, your chest, your arms, down into your fingers, all the way down into the other arm, the other fingers, up into the throat, up into my head. Imagining it coming home as I make circles or squiggles. And then noticing if my pen or pencil wants to really sit in a certain place in my body, that then I bring that muse connection into that place. Making circles, not lifting my pen, making marks. Until you're complete. You might have something that looks kind of like that or completely different. And then you can observe that. And so I'll give you a reflection here where I noticed my pen just really wanted to sit right there in the heart. Go round and round and round and round and bring that connection into this little heart space. And you can write on there after you've observed a little bit, maybe that if you haven't already written the message that you received, if there were words that went along with that, or if there was a little symbol. So just to share with you again, the message I got was light your soul fire with this little flame. So I can imagine that that's just burning right there in my heart. And if, these experiences are completely unique, you might have, had seen huge cosmic things and received a lot of information, or you might have seen the path. And that's exactly the place to work from. Whatever information you receive, there's always lots of juicy points for inquiry in whatever you received, whatever gifts you received. And so this is how you connect to your muse. How was that, Grace?
That was just such a beautiful journey. I saw so many images. Oh my goodness. It was very rich, very rich.
Yeah, so if you saw lots of images, write them and doodle them, and there are many ways to bring those images into form. There's definitely like a particular painting process that we learn in intentional creativity that has 13 steps, and you basically paint that figure that you encountered. You paint her with all of her symbols, and more information comes, and or you do something really simple, and maybe there was a color that was predominant, or a symbol or a shape for that gift. But it's really, even just to do this kind of a simple thing, to bring that information into the body is really a way in which you're gathering energy, and then you can create. So maybe you're not going to create a painting from that, but maybe you have some other project that you're working on, and you've been stuck on how to bring it into being. I mean, I often use the example of like a business. You have some kind of big project, you're bringing a business into being and trying to figure out how to get it out into the world. This kind of a thing, to talk to the muse and bring it in some way, shape, or form into this physical realm, even if it's with some doodles or some words, brings it into your body. And it's like, then in your body, you have the energy from that conversation, from those gifts that you received, to then be able to focus. Where are you going to direct that energy now? Mm-hmm. And that's where the clarity begins to come, and to bring inquiry into that. Like, what are your questions? What are the, you could do that same meditation we just did numerous times, and each time you come with a, more developed question, perhaps, to have more conversation, and then gathering that gives you information that you can then bring back and then implement into form. And if you are painting and that's something that calls to you, there are many ways that you can bring that into form in a painting also. Sometimes when we have a lot of information, this is actually the painting behind me. I don't know if you can see it. It's one that I've been working on. And it was from one of those huge visions. It's not finished. It's a work in progress. But it was a huge vision where I got so much information. It's like, how do I, and it's about creation, in fact, how do I bring that into form? And one of the things is to simplify it. Like, we actually don't have to portray all of the information we get. We can choose what's most important to this particular story or this particular creation. And that actually helps us focus our intent. So that's another little piece I can give you, whether it's painting or whether it's, some other bigger thing, like to focus your intent and choose the most important parts of the information that you receive.
Right. And I love, I'm just looking at that painting right now, because it's like, when I look at that, I feel like the food is being blessed, and the food is so divinely, nourishing.
It's your way of being in service through the food.
And that's kind of what I'm doing.
Exactly. It's the fundamental building block of creation.
Maybe that needs to be hanging on my wall as my inspiration to remind me, Beyond Broth for me has been just that. That's kind of why I'm even doing it. But it is another expression of the same place of what has been my muse, of what's been inspiring me. So in everything that I've done. So that muse, I love this piece about the muse, is that it really is in everything we do, in all of our creations. And it's, to me, the soul of creation. It's, it is that. And whatever you're doing out there, you don't have to do huge, incredible, masterful works of art. It's, anything is a work of art. Anything. It's not, a work of art painting,
Yeah. It can be as simple as, it can be like something really simple, like a medicine wheel,
Yeah.
But like, how are you gathering your energy from this conversation with a part of you that's connected to creation, to the great creative force in the universe, and how can you bring it into some form where you can observe it, remember what you've learned, and then put whatever it is you're creating into practice.
Yes.
Like this, for me, it's painting, but if yours is cooking or business or whatever, the purpose of this is so that you can be like, oh, I brought it through. Like, this is the first step in bringing it through that portal so that you can actually make it palpable, tangible in physical reality.
Yeah, I love it. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. We're just going to wrap up here. And I wanted to know if there's anything else you would like to share, because I know I could just hang out with you here for hours.
I just want to share one other little thing that could be of service to, people, no matter what kind of thing they're creating or what they're doing or not creating at all, which is a particular kind of way of mark making we call prayer dots in intentional creativity. And it's a way, especially when during these difficult times, and there's so many challenges going on and so many tragedies, and sometimes tragedies that seem beyond comprehension. And so just a really simple way of processing that and feeling like you can be of service in the great, quantum field is to make little dots, and you can do it with a pen on a piece of paper, and have each dot be a prayer. And if you're something like, I do it here in my universe, the little stars, but in my painting, but it can be just super simple little dots. You can make thousands of them, and maybe they go into some kind of a pattern or something, but there's no purpose to it beyond that each dot is a prayer. And it's a way in which you can bring from that great cosmic force into this reality and have it really be impactful, in the quantum field for those who need it. It's similar in concept to that, like rosaries or malas, that there's a repetition to it.
I was thinking of prayer ties too.
Yeah, it's like a visual thing, and it's just like, like, for example, maybe in some, accident, so and so many people were injured or something. And so you could count the number of dots for each one of those people, or it could be a bigger thing and just like, you know, peace on earth, or
I love
people
it.
who are ill, and just dedicate that prayer, 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 prayer.
Yeah.
God.
Beautiful,
So a
beautiful,
simple little
simple,
thing is
beautiful,
helpful. Yeah.
really beautiful, simple tool.
Yeah.
I love that. So on that note, wow, what a gift this has been. I feel very full and very satisfied. Thank you so much for being here, Emily, and sharing your everything, your heart, your just such gifts you've given to all of us here today. And um, thank you everyone for being here and showing up. And Emily's offer you will find on her page as well. So thank you again and have a beautiful day. Bless you.
So much, Grace. It's been an honor to be here with you. Thank you to all the people who take the time to, be in this kind of a community. And I just want to reflect to Grace. I just feel so moved by all that you're doing. I just feel, we've known each other for so many years, and to see you thriving and being in this beautiful way with the community is just beyond moving to me. So thank you for the work you do in the world.
Thank you.